Sometimes, one unexpected moment can test every ounce of trust between two people, and sometimes it becomes the start of buying. It's strange how a single mistake or even a misunderstanding can change the way two people see each other. But sometimes what looks like an accident hides something much deeper. The story you're about to hear isn't about betrayal, it's about trust, doubt, and the quiet moments that test who we really are, understanding what love really means. Emma lived in a small suburban town, peaceful, safe, ordinary. She loved two things more than anything: her art and her husband Ryan. Their backyard garden was her paradise: flowers, vines, and an old wooden shed she turned into her creative space. Ryan worked long hours in the city. He was loyal, kind but distant lately. Deadlines, pressure, and exhaustion had stolen something from them, that gentle warmth couples share without words. And that's when Daniel entered the story. Ryan's childhood friend. The unexpected visit. One gray afternoon, the rain had started early. Emma was alone, painting barefoot, her old shirt splattered with color. The shed smelled like wood, coffee, and turpentine. Outside, Daniel parked his truck. He had borrowed a toolbox from Ryan a week ago. He knocked once, but the sound was swallowed by rain. He pushed the door open slightly and froze. For a second, he saw Emma startled, unaware. The paintbrush fell from her hand. Daniel turned red, mumbled an apology, and stepped out immediately. But that one moment, just a second, changed everything. The silence that followed. That night, Ryan came home early. Daniel had called him, trying to explain. Nervous, honest, Ryan listened, but something inside him twisted. He trusted Emma completely, or at least he thought he did. When he walked into the living room, Emma was there, quiet, reading. Their eyes met, and even without words, both knew something had shifted. Dinner was silent. No fight, no accusation. Just a heavy, invisible wall between them. The painting of trust. Emma couldn't sleep, so she went to the shed, her only place of peace. She painted until sunrise. On the canvas, she painted a door slightly open, with a shadow outside and inside, a woman surrounded by light. It was a painting about truth, not guilt. About being seen when you don't expect it, and still choosing to stand tall. When Ryan saw the painting the next morning, his chest tightened. He realized she wasn't defending herself with words, she was expressing something deeper. So he asked softly, "Emma, did he see you?" She looked up and said, "He walked in. I didn't even know he was there." "But if you don't trust me, Ryan, no explanation will matter." Ryan didn't know what to say. He believed her. But part of him couldn't forget what Daniel described. Ryan didn't know what to say. He believed her, but part of him couldn't forget what Daniel described. Later that evening, Ryan went to meet Daniel. They sat in his truck, the sound of rain tapping the windshield. Daniel looked guilty but firm. "Man, I swear it was an accident. She didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry if I made things weird." Ryan nodded, but his heart was uneasy. Something didn't sit right. If it was truly accidental, why did Daniel sound so nervous? Why did his eyes avoid contact when he spoke? A week later, Emma returned to the shed and noticed something strange. One of her canvases, the one she painted months ago, was missing. It was a painting of her and Ryan, holding hands under a sunset. She searched everywhere, but it was gone. That same evening, Ryan received an anonymous envelope at work. Inside was a photo of the missing painting, with a note that said, "Ask her what she hides in her art." He froze. The handwriting looked familiar, too familiar. That night, Ryan returned home quietly. Emma was in the garden, sitting by the shed, painting again. He walked closer, his heart pounding, wondering whether to confront her or to wait. The sound of her brush, the smell of rain, and the flicker of light from the shed made everything feel surreal. Then he noticed something new on her canvas, a man's shadow behind the door. Not Ryan's. He stepped back, trying to breathe. And the story ends here for now. Because sometimes the truth hides not in words, but in the art we create to protect it. Sometimes love doesn't break because of lies, it breaks because of silence. But what if silence hides a truth you were never supposed to find? Ryan thought the worst was over. He had chosen to believe Emma, until that mysterious envelope arrived. Now, every smile felt like a secret. Every shadow felt like a sign. He didn't know it yet, but the real story wasn't about Emma's mistake. It was about what someone else was trying to make him believe. That night, Ryan sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the note again. "Ask her what she hides in her art," He turned the photo of the painting over and noticed faint smudges, charcoal fingerprints. Emma's art always used oil paints, not charcoal. So who touched this painting? He couldn't ask her directly, not yet. Something inside told him to wait, to watch. He slipped the envelope into a drawer and acted normal for the next few days. But normal was impossible when your heart was full of questions. A week later, Emma was invited to a local art exhibit. Ryan joined her, partly proud, partly uneasy. Her section had 3 paintings, but one caught everyone's attention. It showed a garden under moonlight, a small wooden shed in the center, and inside the shed, barely visible, the shape of 2 people. Ryan felt his chest tighten. He leaned closer. The second figure wasn't detailed, but it wasn't him. Emma noticed his reaction. Their eyes met across the crowd. For a moment, time stopped. But before he could say anything, Daniel walked into the gallery. Ryan hadn't seen him since that awkward day. Daniel smiled politely, congratulated Emma, and moved toward another painting. But Ryan noticed his eyes lingered a bit too long. Later that night, Ryan checked Emma's phone while she was in the shower. No messages from Daniel. Nothing suspicious. Just a photo album labeled Garden Light. Inside, he found sketches and one image that made his stomach drop. It was the same shed painting, but unfinished. In the original sketch, there were 3 figures, not 2. One was erased. Who was the third person? The late-night discovery. At midnight, Ryan couldn't sleep. He went out to the garden. Rain had started again. The shed light flickered faintly, even though no one was there. He stepped inside. The smell of paint and wood surrounded him. On the work table, under a cloth, he found another canvas, one Emma hadn't shown anyone. When he lifted it, his breath caught. The painting showed Emma sitting on the shed floor, and behind her the faint, dark outline of a man holding a camera. Ryan froze. It wasn't artistic imagination, it was too real. He remembered the same camera Daniel used to carry. The next morning, Ryan confronted Daniel at his workshop. "Did you ever come back to our garden after that day?" he asked. Daniel looked shocked, then defensive. "Why would I?" "You know me better than that." Ryan stepped closer. "Then why do I have a painting with your camera in it?" Silence. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Ryan, you're looking at the wrong person." Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" Daniel sighed. "Ask Emma, who else has the key to that shed?" And he walked away. That night, Ryan searched the house. In Emma's jewelry box, he found a small silver key different from their usual set. He took it to the shed, and it fit perfectly. But when he turned the key, something clicked in the wall. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a small wooden box. Inside were old photographs of Emma painting, of Ryan sleeping, of the garden at night. Most were harmless, until he saw one labeled July 18th. It showed Emma standing in the shed, smiling, and someone else's reflection visible in the window behind her. Not Daniel. Someone older. Ryan's mind spun. Who took that photo? Why was it hidden? He waited until morning and finally asked Emma, holding the box in his hands. She looked at it and her face went pale. "Where did you find this?" she whispered. "In your shed," Ryan said quietly. "Who's in that reflection?" Tears welled in her eyes. She took a deep breath. "That's not Daniel," she said. "It's my father." Ryan blinked. "Your father? But you told me he passed away years ago." She nodded slowly. "He did. But before he died, he used to visit me in the shed when I painted. I kept those photos hidden because they were the last pieces of him I had." Ryan felt a rush of guilt and relief, but something still didn't add up. Because the camera in the painting wasn't old, it was modern. That night, unable to rest, Ryan went back to the shed again. He placed the photos on the table and suddenly noticed something strange. In the corner of each photo, a faint symbol, a circle with 2 lines etched in pencil. He had seen that before. On the back of the anonymous envelope, someone else had been watching. As thunder rolled outside, Ryan turned toward the window. In the distance, under a flickering streetlight, a figure stood near the fence, watching. Motionless. Ryan whispered, "Emma, we're not alone. They say secrets have a way of following you even when you think you've buried them insolence. But what if the script starts knocking back?" The night after the garden sheet incident, Emma couldn't sleep. The wind brushed against the windows, making the trees whisper like they were gossiping about her. Every sound felt louder, heavier, like the world was holding its breath. Ryan had been distant since then. He smiled, but it wasn't the same smile. There was curiosity in his eyes, something between guilt and fascination. And Emma, she couldn't tell if she was more scared of him or of herself. The next morning she went back to the garden. The air smelled like rain, and the sheet stood there quietly, too quietly. She ran her fingers across the door, half expecting it to creak open. On its own inside, nothing had changed except nothing. A small footprint in the dust, another's, not Ryan's. Someone had been there. She froze. Her heartbeat echoed in hers. Then she noticed something else, a folded piece of paper tucked under a flower pot. On it, written in shaky letters, "You shouldn't have been there last night." Her breath caught. The note wasn't from Ryan. She knew his handwriting. Someone else had seen. That night, Emma decided to confront Ryan. "Were you in the shed after I left?" she asked. He looked genuinely confused. "Why?" "Because someone was." The air between them tightened. Ryan stepped closer, his expression changing from confusion to concern. "Emma, you need to tell me everything." Before she could respond, a soft tapping sound came from the window. They turned. Outside in the darkness, a faint light flickered like a phone recording from across the fence. Emma whispered, "Ryan, someone's watching us." They rushed outside, but whoever it was had already vanished. All they found was another note pinned to the fence with a nail. This one said, "The garden isn't the only place I've seen you. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share."